Hi, welcome to the first Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are in the world today, to our studio in Jerusalem. Great to have you with us. The Israel First television program looks at the news. We have interviews, and we will look at what's happening behind the scenes in Israel. It's really a window into Israel for you to be able to see what's happening in the land, to keep up to date.
We're sitting in Israel, and it's like a window for you to see what's happening here, because it's very important, isn't it? Israel is it's the center. When we read and dig in the Bible, Israel is the center of the world, is the heartbeat of the world. And so now we're here, we want to connect with you, and it's just wonderful to be able to connect.
And if you know, for some of the viewers watching today, they will be familiar with us because they will have seen us in the Last Days television program. But it's important for you to realize, whoever you are, that we're going to show them today a bit about the background, about how we came to Israel, about what the program is going to be, what we're going to be doing on the program, and a bit of our background as well. So it's interesting that that we were doing originally. We started doing the programs in 2004 in the United Kingdom. We were recording for satellite television, doing a program from the UK. But one of the issues we soon came across was that it was difficult to get guests from Israel to be able to do on location. Obviously, being outside of the land, we could do certain things, but there were a lot of things we couldn't do. So we were wondering about a studio in Jerusalem. That was an exciting project that we wondered about. And the station were very excited and wanted to help us and to dispatch us and send us over to Israel to be here, so that we could be on location to bring you who are watching at home what's happening here in the land, and to not just that, but also about the Hebrew language as well, that we know that a lot of you are starting to learn the Hebrew language, or discovering the Hebrew language.
But when you say that, it's like, it's been almost, we really started in 1997. If you remember, you invited me to a meeting, and this meeting, there was a drama who was speaking about Israel and about the church, and suddenly for me, it's like something happened, and I could see that God had a special purpose for the church, and He had a special purpose for Israel. And suddenly, I was reading the Bible in a totally different way. It's just like in one evening, it's just changed. And I could see that all the prophecies that sometimes we take for ourselves, which is okay because it's the scriptures, but it was written for the Jewish people, and God was doing something with them. And 1997, funny enough, it was like 40 years we're going into 98, and 98 was the 50 years from 1948, when the state of Israel was restarted. It was restarted.
And it was a very important time, because it was a discovery of the Jewish roots.
That's it.
And that it changed the whole way of thinking, really, and not just the Jewish roots, but the importance of Israel.
Yeah, and suddenly our faith was getting stronger. It's like we could see, like through the eye of the Jewish people, the scriptures, and suddenly it was giving us more depth, and our faith was getting stronger. And you're right, after we discovered that the scriptures were writing in the Hebrew language, and that it was very important to start to see. There is a passage where it's written I wrote in the book. We wrote a book. I wrote a book, The Beauty of the Hebrew Language, because we discover when we're starting to study, we say this is not just for us. This is also for the people. God is doing something, and so it's like the Hebrew language is like a direct language. And when we see the translation, sometimes there is a poet who was saying, it's like kissing your bride with a veil. So you're missing something. And like the Hebrew language is very direct. And
it's something we're going to be doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's on the program that, and it's not something heavy, though it's very gentle and very
Exactly.
slowly introducing the people at home. You'll be able to learn some Hebrew and be able to slowly get familiar with different words and their importance and what their significance is.
I think it's give you more intimacy with knowing who is God, and since we've done that, it's like have a much more comprehension that God is a God of chesed. It means like loving kindness. His heart is always toward us. And like, again, I was learning something yesterday. We messed up very often, but when we messed up, God say, hey, you can go back and it's okay, I will forget, and let us carry on, let us, be walking together. And the important thing is like relationship with Him and relationship with each other. We are on the way. We are not perfect.
And one of the things that we're going to be doing is news and interviews from Israel, because I know that you want to keep up to date with what's happening in the land, want to have the up-to-date news, and you want the truth from Israel. There is plenty of news out there, but you want to hear what's really happening here, and we have guests on to tell you what's happening in the land, and we have guests, spokespeople, all sorts of people. And I was thinking about one particular guest we had on, whose son and grandson were killed in a terror attack. A very moving interview we did with him, and it was just such a privilege to be able to just hear his story, to hear what it was like for him, what happened, the truth about what happened, what he was going through. And that was a very important program. That's the kind of thing we want to do. We want to get people here who can from the land who can tell you at home, what's happening for them, and to be a window into the land of Israel. Now, we were talking about the importance of having a studio in having a television studio in Jerusalem. And that took a lot of work and effort with the station and with the arrangements and everything, and of course bringing equipment and everything over to to Israel. And since that time, we've been doing programs. And as I say, if people may well know, who've seen it in the Last Days television may well know us. So maybe you can tell us a bit about what we've been doing, Nathalie. And
sure. I mean, it's an adventure, because God started to show us the importance of the Jewish roots, like who are grafted to the olive tree, which is the Jewish people. That, again, we go back to Abraham. Our father is the father of our faith. He's the one who believed in the true God, and he said to the people, hey, you know what? There is a true God, and he's a loving father. And He's for us, and His name, like Jehovah, we've done also some program about that. It's like He's the one who was with you. He's the one who is with you, and He's the one who is going to be with you, which means He's not the God who is far away, He's somebody who is very close to you. And I think we will do some program also with rabbis, because there is really a connection now between Christian and Jewish people.
oh yes, that's another thing I wanted for you watching at home to know about. That one of the things that the Israel First television program is going to do is to be a bridge, to be to talk about Jewish-Christian relations. And I understand that we're working more with this other organization from Efrat, the Christian. I think it's called the. Maybe you can tell us what it's called. The name.
Understanding and cooperation between Jewish and Christians.
Right, and they are working to inform Christians about the Jewish roots, and
it's a connection that is being made. And funny enough, they are starting to do Bible studies, Jews and Christians together here in the land, in Jerusalem, which is very interesting, because this is the passage. If you have your Bible, you can look in Isaiah, and it's very exciting. because we like to bring the scriptures all the time. You know, Israel is the place of where the Bible has been studied for so many years, and the word of God is coming back from is coming from Zion. So if you look in Isaiah 2, this is what he said, and it shall come to pass in the last days, which is what we are in now. I'm sure that a lot of people know that now, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. And so it means that, you know, his government, God's government, is going to be the one who is going to reign from Jerusalem. And on top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And it's because of that, you know, God has a heart to see his scriptures, his word coming out from Zion. And I tell you, we can really see things happening in the land. Like we've been here now for 6 years, coming to 7 years, and we can see a difference. And even the Israeli government right now, like Netanyahu, the prime minister, went to Africa. There is a lot of African countries who are open to have more connection and reconnect with Israel, because some relation was finished in 1948. And there is a lot of things spiritually, but also in the land. There is some buildings, and like if you see the set, it's like triangle. The idea is also is like there is a beautiful bridge at the entrance of Jerusalem, which is called the Harp Bridge, or sometimes people call it also the Courts Bridge, and like with a harp, and we try to connect with the landscape also of Jerusalem, and also we know that, as you said, is like a bridge between Christian and Jewish people. And I think it's important and exciting, you know, to see all these things.
And they're going to have the opportunity to ask the Rabbi, isn't it? They're going to have,
Yes.
We're going to have...
Yes. And connect with us. We will have, like we will have a website, and we have also Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, and we really want to, Israel is a place to connect. So.
And, you know, one of the interesting things is that as the different people come in, we've had spokespeople in, we had the spokesman in from Magen David Adom, Yoni Yagodowski, and we've had other people come in. During the Operation Protective Edge, we had a soldier come in from the IDF to talk about that. So it's really it's really good for the folks that you'll have an opportunity to hear what's happening behind the scenes, to experience. And we're going to be also bringing news as much as we can. I mean, obviously things change so fast in Israel that, you know, sometimes you can have a news story one week and by next week it's out of date. But we'll do our very best to bring you up-to-date news and behind-the-scenes news as well.
Yes, and let us not forget also that next year is the Jubilee for Jerusalem. So again, it's something that is going to be quite amazing. In 1967, Jerusalem, the heart of Israel, was in the hands of the Jewish people again, which was after 2000 of exile. And again, all these things, this is the biggest miracle in front of our eyes, to see a nation who was exiled for 2000 years. And they are coming back, they have their language, they have their land, they are like connecting with each other, because it's like Israel is not just Israel. Israel is the people. Israel is the land. Israel is the language. So it's all put together.
We had a guest come on who was talking to us about the three chord. I think it was Eliezer BenYehuda.
Yeah.
The
Eliezer BenYehuda.
Right. And
you have to speak a bit. Tell them.
Well, we had one of our guests on the program was Rabbi Eliezer BenYehuda, who is the grandson of the Eliezer BenYehuda, who I don't think was a rabbi, but he was a linguist, and he was re-established Hebrew in the land of Israel. And indeed, the street, BenYehuda Street, is named after him.
Exactly.
And his grandson, we were privileged to have and we've had him a few times, we're able to have Eliezer BenYehuda, Rabbi Eliezer BenYehuda, come in and talk to us. about his grandfather and the work he did, and which changed everything, because a lot of what people might not...
It's because of him,
Right.
because of his granddad, that the people are speaking Hebrew in the street
Right.
now.
And what his granddad realized was that people were coming from every nation, but they were bringing their own languages. There was people from Germany, and they were speaking German in the schools. There was Yiddish was very, very popular, and probably one of the main languages in Israel. And of course English, there was a British mandate, and there were people were speaking English. French, people, the language of diplomacy, and indeed other countries in the Middle East, people were speaking French. So people were coming back from all and Arabic. People were coming back from all the different countries and speaking all these different languages, and he realized that the Jewish people needed to be united by one language, but he had quite a lot of opposition, and we had his grandson in telling us about that, and that was a very interesting program. And the book, he's written a book as well about his granddad.
Yeah, I mean, it's again where we are at now. Israel is an amazing land, you know. It's almost 70 years now that Israel has been reborn, restarted, reestablished. And it was desert. There was a lot of like Tel Aviv wasn't Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv was like some dunes.
And talking of books, we'll have different guests in to speak about books. We've had Daniel Gordis came in to speak about his work on Menachem Begin, a fantastic book, and we've had other people come in and do their books and tell us about it.
We had Sherry Mandel, which is again an amazing lady. She lost her son, who was 13 years old, in an act of terror. And you can imagine losing your son at 13 years old, who was 13 years old, is just terrible. But she overcame the difficulty, and she was speaking about it, and they are doing camps to help people who've been in terror. You know, Israel, again, we can speak about the name the name Israel first is first as is a foreigner. Like we can see also terrorism now in other countries, and they are looking at Israel saying, how did they cope for so many years, and they are still alive, and are still like full of life, and how are they coping? And we need to know, and I heard America is coming here, the police, to see how it is. France is looking also hard to cope with all these things. And so Israel first is like, they've been the first runner. Abraham was the first one who say, hey, God is the God of Israel. I mean, he's our creator. And he say, I want to tell the people, I know I connected with God, and now I want to make other people to connect. So again, Israel is
and there's
this
so
place.
there's so much happening here which people don't know about. We had Rabbi Aaron Leibovitz from the Jerusalem City Council talking about the bikes, and you might not know about the bikes of Jerusalem, but they're putting in a system where people can hire. I haven't seen it yet, but this is what he told me. They're putting in a system of bikes.
It takes time to do
bicycles that you'll be able to hire in Jerusalem. Now, things like this people don't know about, and we had a very interesting interview with Rabbi Aaron, and he was telling us a bit behind the scenes, so we better have people like that.
Yeah, because they can see, like you said, it's Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is an old city, which is also a new city. So they have to find out, you know, to keep the old but like develop the new. And they know that they have a lot of tourists coming, which is interesting because we had also this other lady who came to speak. She was also from the city council, and she was saying
she was
pilgrims,
the deputy mayor.
The deputy mayor, and she didn't want to say tourists. She was always saying pilgrims, because she knew that Jerusalem is a city for people to come to connect with God. So it was also very interesting that, you know, to start to do all these things and connect with you. We had an adventure before, and now we are going to have an adventure with you. And we're going to go out, you will see the land directly, you will see interviews in the studio, and you know, it's a lot of things that's going. We are going to do things with you and connect with you, and this is wonderful.
And if the viewers would like to connect, they can do that. How can they do that, Nathalie?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, the
They can
website, and they can. Yeah.
And email us, and if we'll do our very best if we have some emails coming in to do one or two to, you can write in and we'll try and squeeze that in somewhere into the programs. Sometimes the programs that will just disappear with the time, but we'll do our very best for fitting those in.
And we want to say welcome. This is wonderful to be able to connect with you. Wonderful to be on Angel TV, and is like on 12 satellites, and is translated also in different languages, so you can see the richness of what's happening in Israel. And we know that it's the time for the nations. Israel is being like re-established, like we can say almost reborn in 1948. Jerusalem has been in the hand of the Jewish people again in 1967, and we're coming into the jubilee of that. And we can see God doing things. He wants to bless the nations. He wants the nations to connect to His holy city, because He is there. Like we've been here for 7 years, and we can feel His presence coming into this land more than ever before. We can see people coming also during the feast, like the Feast of Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacle. People are coming here to praise God. I know people are coming even with their offerings because that they are Sukkot, and this is wonderful. This is again, we see so many prophecies. This is a prophecy fulfilled from Isaiah. And I saw people coming, they put money aside during the year, and they come here during the Feast of Tabernacle to connect with God and say, now this is my contribution.
It's all connected really, because that's why so many people are interested in the news from Israel, interested in what's happening, because Israel it's so important, and it's part of this thing. And I was thinking there's also the Bible verse where it says, out of Zion, out of the word of the Lord, the Bible is going to come out of Jerusalem. Yeah. So this is all part of that, and we are seeing, that more and more people are interested, and all across the world there are people who are wanting to know, wanting to have the truth from Israel, wanting to know, because the media is biased. Well, it's been great to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us for our very first Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. We do hope that you'll join us again for the program that looks at the land, the language, and the people.
Wonderful. We are with you today in Jerusalem, and this is the street, Ethiopia Street. This is the street where Eliezer BenYehuda used to live. Who is Eliezer BenYehuda? He was an amazing man who revived the Hebrew language. Why do we say he revived the Hebrew language? The people were still using it when they were praying, the Jewish people. But we say that he was a revivist because they weren't using it anymore during the daily life. And Eliezer BenYehuda was really looked as an amazing man because he has to revive this language and also create some new names like bicycles, like names things that weren't used during the Bible time. And so he was very careful and crafted every name, and also created the first Hebrew dictionary. Now when you are in the street here in Jerusalem and you listen to the people speaking, they all speak Hebrew because of Eliezer BenYehuda. This is just amazing. Now why is it so important for us? The Hebrew language is revived for us. There is a prophecy in Zephaniah 3:9, and I quote, "Then I will give pure lips to the people, so that they will call upon the name of the Lord, and they shall serve him in one accord." Isn't it amazing? For the people is not just the Jewish people. The people is all the nations all around who wants to serve him, who wants to call upon the name of the Lord. And this is so exciting. So it's because of that we're speaking to you about the Hebrew language. Now we just do a tiny introduction of the Hebrew language. The Hebrew language has 22 letters, and not just letters. They are called signs and wonders. the name in Hebrew is Ot. Why is it like that? Because every letter carries something and carry a power. Do you remember Genesis 1 to Genesis 11? There was only one language. Read again Genesis 11. There was only one language. And this language was the language of creation. And it was the Hebrew language. Isn't it amazing? You see, read again. In Genesis 2, God was so happy to see Adam creating words with the Hebrew language. And you know, he wasn't just doing a word, he was creating, he was giving the purpose of the people. Like for example, par, which is butterfly. Do you know where it comes from? It comes from the verb pirper, which means struggling. Because before being a beautiful butterfly, he's an ugly caterpillar who is going to be in a cocoon, hiding away, and is struggling and suddenly become a beautiful par. And something wonderful that I want to tell you today, again, the last nugget about the Hebrew language for today, is the name Emet. You see, there is 22 letters. The first letter is Aleph, which is for Emet, the first letter. The middle one is a M for Emet, and the last one is Tav, Emet. And it means truth in Hebrew. And this is just amazing because the Hebrew language, from the beginning to the end, has the power of the truth, and we're going to discover it together. Show by show, we will carry on teaching you and sharing about the Hebrew language. This is wonderful.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that feature, which we've done for you this week. We're doing these for the folks, aren't we, Nathalie, so that they can see behind the scenes and can see the language and what's happening with the people. So don't forget to support us. It's because of your support that we're able to do this program today. And remember that this is the program about the land, the people, and the language.